What's up, Throners? It's Kyle here, and we are back with another Game of Thrones theory video today, focusing on my favorite character, Sandor Clegane, and his arc for the final 2 seasons of Game of Thrones. Make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with all of my videos, and buckle your seatbelts aboard the hype train. Sandor the Hound Clegane rejects the concept of knighthood because of the hypocrisy he sees around him. His brother Gregor is a knight and one of the most monstrous characters in the series. Sandor himself was a victim of his brother as a child, and this experience shaped him more than anything else in his life. Sandor believes that there are no true knights and deep down believes everyone else is as monstrous as Gregor, and those that aren't are only victims. People call him the Hound because he's a hired dog who kills indiscriminately at his master's call. But as the story goes, and when Sandor goes off on his own adventures, like everyone else, he interacts with different characters, and he meets the 2 Stark girls who end up understanding who he truly is. But Sandor is still very much a burned child. In the modern world, he would probably be diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and/or depression. His problem lies with his self-esteem, and he feels that he is unworthy of love and that he is only good for one thing: killing. But there is something special about House Stark to Sandor. When he first came in contact with the Starks, it's possible that this may have been the first time he had truly been around decent people. He sees a family who truly cares about each other, so when these tragedies occurred to Sansa and Arya, he can sympathize and offer his perspective. When he found Arya, I believe he had every intention of returning her to Catelyn, and possibly he believed he can have a future in the back of his mind that he might find a place in their house, their family for protecting the Stark girls, being loyal like a dog, staying by their side, being their protector for that period of time. And that brings us back to the start of his story, where in King's Landing he encounters Sansa Stark. She's just as naive and innocent as he once was. She believes in the same heroes and true knights. All Sandor sees is a girl blindly standing in the middle of a road who's about to get trampled by the dark reality around her. And he felt the need to save her, to help her learn to teach her how to survive. He may have even felt some need to help her in a connection with his sister, who he was unable to save. Ultimately, it's all the cause of the subtle ways he protected Sansa while in King's Landing. Remember that scene where Sansa is on that bridge and we see Joffrey torturing her with Ned's head on a spike? She was thinking to push Joffrey, and Sandor stopped her. He was not worried about Joffrey at all. He was warning Sansa not to act out to get in trouble. He covered her with her cloak in the throne room when Marin Trant is beating her, and he escorted her out of that room where she was about to be raped and killed by these fanatics in King's Landing. He's the only person who went out looking for her during that riot, and I believe this is when she finds a true found respect for Sandor. For her, he's a true knight. We have to remember that Sansa has this fascination and daydreaming about what goes on in the South, about these storybook knights, and she always seems to run back to Sandor. But he believes there is no such thing as a true knight. But with all of this said, would Dan and Dave have brought Sandor back just to kill him off in Season 7? He could have easily just stayed dead at the end of Season 4. At this point, they're trying to kill off any unnecessary characters to focus on what's important. And since they brought him back, he must be important. He must have something left to overcome. And the only things that Sandor realistically has to overcome are his violent history, his fear of fire, and his hatred for his brother. He might feel like he has some sense of obligation to Sansa or Arya, but I feel like that was sort of resolved. Now, I personally would love to see the Clegane Bowl, don't get me wrong. I want to see Sandor deal with his undead brother. I think that would be a suiting end for Sandor's story. But I believe because of his experiences on the Quiet Isle that the gods have something more in store for Sandor Clegane. We do hear Brother Ray say that the gods have more in store for Sandor Clegane. I read somewhere that George R.R. Martin based this character of Sandor Clegane on the Irish mythological hero of Cú Chulainn. He appears in the stories of the Ulster Cycle, as well as the Scottish and Manx folklore. I think we should take a look at the similarities between these two heroes, as George has been profoundly inspired by Irish legend. Here's what I found. Cú Chulainn is nicknamed the Hound of Ulster. This is a pretty obvious parallel. He's associated with dogs and hounds from his early childhood. He has a loyal steed, one of which stays with him until his death and fights violently for him. He kills 30 men with his hooves and teeth before he dies. In many versions of his tale, he's described as having darkish long hair, pale skin, appearing lean but in fact the strongest man alive. Now, this is my favorite parallel. His face disfigures itself when he goes into his Rheastrad. And Rheastrad basically is just like Battle Fury or like Warrior's Rage. And it's kind of like Wolverine if you guys like the Wolverine comics. So basically that's what happens with him. And I thought that was pretty cool. But this is only a temporary disfigurement. And but yeah, he goes pretty crazy and he kills a bunch of people. And he is fated to die young and violently and outnumbered, but heroically, and I think Sandor might have this as well. Now, let's compare Sandor Clegane. His nickname is the Hound, he's associated with the Hound, and he's also associated with dogs throughout the series because of his house's sigil. He's described as having similar physical appearance to Cuchulainn, dark hair, he's leaner than his brother, but he's incredibly strong. We hear Jaime talk about this in the books. He has a loyal, temperamental stallion named Stranger, who is an effective warhorse. He stayed by his side for most of the story. And we know that his face is horribly disfigured. Now, it's not the same as Cuchulainn, but it gives him this fearsome and monstrous look, so that's pretty awesome. We also have to remember that he has this monstrous look in battle with his Hound Helm, so it's kind of like his second look of his face. And even though there's no real specific prophecy for Sandor, I believe that he's fated to die young. I mean, look at him. He's kind of a doomed character. He almost died once with Arya, and I believe he will sacrifice himself in the end for Sansa or Arya. Which brings us to the story of Cuchulainn's death and the War for Dawn. In Irish folklore, Cuchulainn ties himself to his standing stone to die on his feet facing his enemies. He could not bear the thought of dying on the ground like an animal, but wanted to die on his feet like a warrior. He crawled to a standing stone and tied himself to it, gripping his sword tightly. As he stood there dying, a raven came and tripped over his intestine. Cuchulainn died with laughter in his mouth. His stone is traditionally identified, and I'm gonna botch this, Clochafarmore, located near Dundalk. Due to his ferocity, even when so near his death, it is only when a raven lands on his shoulder that his enemies believe he is dead. So basically, to sum this all up, he takes on a dozen men, and even when they cut off his head, his sword arm falls off and cuts another man's arm off. So this brings me to my prediction for Sandor and the War for Dawn. I've stated many times that I believe that Sandor Clegane will die saving one of the Stark girls, and previously in this theory I spoke more about Sansa than Arya. However, I believe that Sandor Clegane will die protecting Arya Stark. Now, my reasoning for this is Arya and Sandor share a deep connection. Sandor asked for his death at Arya's hand, and she didn't grant him his wish. This is super interesting, as we see this gives Sandor another chance at life. He has had a chance to reflect and find some measure of peace at the Quiet Isle. Now, when this big scenario goes down, I believe he will see much of his tortured and young self within Arya at this stage of her life and her story. And I believe that Sandor will offer her the same shot at redemption when the White Walkers and the army of the dead fall upon Winterfell. There will be a moment where Sandor and Arya are pinned down, and Sandor will give Arya the opportunity to escape by taking on a horde of whites and a White Walker. He will let her know that she gave him hope, and a chance to get rid of his hate by helping others. It will be a very touching scene, and Sandor will not only give her the opportunity to get away, but he will do so using fire. He will fight the whites by using fire and the White Walker by using fire, killing a White Walker and a dozen whites in the process. But he will go down standing on his own 2 feet, and not on all fours like a dog. He is named the Hound, but he is the epitome of a true knight. Will Sandor go down fighting to protect one of the Stark girls, or will he go down to King's Landing to deal with his brother and Cersei Lannister in the Clegane Bowl? I really want to hear your thoughts on my theory, and let me know your theories and ideas in the comment section so we can keep this epic conversation going. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be much appreciated. Smashing that like button really helps out channels like mine grow, so thank you so much for that. Also, if you would like to support my channel, I started a GoFundMe to help get me to Con of Thrones and achieve my dream of vlogging an amazing event like this, so you can find the GoFundMe here, and believe me, every dollar helps. Make sure you click on that box of crispy fried chicken in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. It keeps you up to date with all of my videos, and I have some amazing content coming up for Season 7 and leading up until Season 7. So if you click that box of crispy fried chicken, it will bring you to my home screen and you can subscribe. Don't be shy, reach out to me on social media at KFCTube on Twitter. I'm always down to chat Game of Thrones there, or you can also reach out to me on Kyle's Fookin Chickens on Facebook. I'll chat Game of Thrones anywhere, anytime, with anyone. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. 7 blessings.
Fuck the king.
Fight it round the buckle! Fight it much for your little fam?
This is captivating.